What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Open Concept Podcast, where we are breaking down unnecessary walls and barriers that stand in the way of greatness. Our guest today, Tony Hoong. What's up, Tony? How you doing?
What's up, Brandon? I'm doing amazing today. Got the
Good.
ghost drink here, about to get some more energy going for sure.
My
Midday.
guy. Yeah, I'm on the cold brew today. It's a little warm out, so need that
Ah,
little caffeine boost to get going. Tony Hoong, the CPA Dude on Instagram, man. I've been following your content. I appreciate you spending some time here with us today. Um, we were talking offline and a little bit about you. You're down in California, Richmond, down near San Diego,
San
correct?
Francisco. Yep.
San
Near there.
Francisco, sorry.
Yep.
Yeah,
Uh-huh.
Richmond, near San Francisco. I think get my US geography a little mixed up sometimes, man. My bad.
Oh, it's all good. Yeah, some people think sometimes like Richmond, Virginia, because that's the Richmond that most people in the U.S. are used to. I'm like, oh no, it's the California one where Coach Carter, the basketball movie, was shot. Yeah.
Ah, great movie though, man. Like, man,
Yeah.
that movie has some epic speeches. Very motivating.
Exactly. That's the
Yeah,
one
yeah,
thing the whole city's known for.
yeah, man. Yeah. So, CPA Dude, you are on a mission to provide people with whatever tax information that they need, and you have some pretty unique stuff and strategies that you're delivering. So first, I just wanted to thank you for putting the content out, because I find it super helpful. And I don't know how long you've been putting out content, man, but it's great. I've been loving watching your stuff.
Oh, appreciate it. Yeah, it's been years in the making. I'll have like good swings, and then we'll go down when tax season hits, and we're just swamped in tax returns. We'll come back, and but now we've actually got a good system of getting it out there, and then also just getting some thoughts. I was just like, hey, there's no point in just not telling people like, hey, only the government wins if you overpay in taxes and you don't know your own financials. So it's just, hey, let's spread the word as much as possible.
Yeah, yo, man, that's really awesome stuff. And before CPA Dude, so you were at a few. You have an interesting story. You were working at sort of the big four firms, a few of them. You were bouncing around, and then you were working with Uber, big names like Uber, and uh, you were
DoorDash.
also, you
Yep.
mentioned to me, which I didn't know. You
Yeah.
were with not Uber Eats.
DoorDash. Yep. Yep.
DoorDash, the other one, DoorDash there. Yeah. So that was cool. I didn't know that. But
Yeah.
man,
Make
what was this journey like, man? You were very much involved in the corporate world, it sounded like, and your parents used to own a restaurant at one point, didn't they?
Yeah, you spot on. Yeah, I worked for them. They put me in the work when I was like 11 years old.
11 years old. Yeah, and you were counting cash at that point, and running through daily cash positions at a very young age.
Oh yeah, yeah. I was always like, hey, my mom was like, hey, go count the till, add up all the tickets manually. There's no point of sale systems back in the day, so everything was just done through, the 10 key, and you just print out the whole thing and review it. So OG style of doing it.
Yeah, times have changed though, my friend.
Oh yeah, now you got Excel. I mean, forget Excel. You got ChatGPT now who can just do your whole months of financials in, probably 30 minutes. And once you tweak all the prompts, it's crazy what it can do now.
Yeah. Hey, now that I've butchered your intro and given you the not the intro that you deserve, why don't you tell the audience here a little bit more about you and how you
Oh
got
yeah.
into this?
Oh no, great intro already, man. So no, thank you for sure. But yeah, no, we're just the CPA Dudes, the company. We're 29 people now, trying to get to another 34 soon in next month. And yeah, pretty much any from a tax and accounting side, that's where we help folks out at. And a big difference is just really, hey, how can you actually save money on taxes? A lot of people just do taxes like it's a chore. And yeah, every year you gotta do it. So it's like every year you should go see the doctor. And that just wasn't enough. So the bigger value that we can do for our clients is really kind of being that strategic partner for them, digesting the code. It's still a very emotional business, surprisingly. It's not as black and white as you would think. And I was like, oh, that's one thing that I was shocked when I got into the industry 2015 when I started my career at KPMG. And they're like, oh, what do you like about tax? And I was like, oh, it's black and white. Just follow the rules, right? If then statements. And then I was like in a world of surprise. It's very gray. It's what positions do you take, grounded in the tax laws. So it's just been fun just helping people save money on taxes overall. And then also just get their books in order. Like a lot of people really know their top lines really well, but they don't know their middle. So they don't know their bottom line at all. Sometimes I talk to business owners and I was like, yeah, how's the business doing? Oh, great. You know, we did like 100,000 last month. I'm like, revenue or profit? They're like, revenue. I'm like, how about profit? And they're like, I don't know. I'm like, what do you mean don't know? I'm like, and it's shocking. People just don't address it. And as more and more I've learned about the industry, finances is a very awkward topic. And it was CNBC released a report and it said that more people are willing to talk about their sex life than their money life. So it's apparently that taboo. And I was like, oh, wow, I just don't see it because every day that's all we talk about with our clients is this money. So it's been a fun journey standing up the firm. And, the firm name was actually from my wife. She called it CPA Dude. It's kind of reflected my personality as, it's very prim and proper in the KPMG world. Like we used to have, button up, wear ties,
Oh yeah, I know.
suits.
Well,
Yeah, and I was just like, oh, this is not me. As I'm here, I'm wearing my own CPA Dude hoodie. It's just who I am as a person. But boiling it down, like, tax jargon is great. You can sound smart, but the ordinary consumer is just like, what does that mean? Like, and we're like, okay, let's just keep it simple and digest it, and then just help them out overall. So it's been a great journey so far, and really led to how we even got connected, right? Like down the entrepreneur path, and the more people you meet, you never know who you're gonna come across. And now it's just like, hey, now we're having a great conversation today.
yeah, and I've made the comment before about black and white, and I think that there's so many decisions that can be made that are black and white, but there's a lot of magic that really happens in the gray.
Yeah.
You know what I
Oh
mean?
yeah, I like
And
the
when
magic in the gray.
there's a
Okay.
lot of
Yeah.
magic, there's a lot of magic that happens in the gray that you can't really put a number on it. Like unless you're kind of in there, it's a little fluid. There's decisions that you need to make where there's not really necessarily a playbook for it. So
Hmm.
you kind of have to take the information that you have and decide on kind of where you're going to be going, and in that moment try and move a few pieces around and make it all come together. And what you said there, very black and white, right? Accounting, taxes, finance, there is a playbook, but there's sort of a minimum amount of guidelines that you need to follow. But in between those guidelines is really where you need somebody that's going to know what they're doing and understand how to move things around. Because, like you said, there's a lot of people that understand top line. But when you talk to them about really understanding bottom line, or really anything in the middle,
Yeah.
it's really overwhelming for people. And there's people that I've talked to that absolutely love finances, absolutely love taxes, love moving things around and figuring it out. And there's people that are just, they do not want to talk about it.
Oh yeah.
They are like they're scared to death of it. They don't know anything about it. They're just like, I'm turning my brain off and just handing it over to my accountant. I'm going to do whatever he says or she says is the right thing to do. But what I love about what the content that you're putting out is it's super digestible. So for somebody that doesn't know what they're doing or what is capable, being able to break that down in terms that are going to be everybody is going to be able to relate to is huge. So if you can communicate what it is that you are trying to do in a manner that anybody can understand, and using relatable stories that people can really understand, and that's gonna be awesome. And that's what I picked up from your content. And so I'm
Oh,
really
thank
impressed
you.
with the stuff that you're putting out.
Oh yeah, thank you. We just keep on going, and yeah, just kind of getting some ideas, chatting with our folks too. I'm like, hey, what do you want to see out there? It's just like a lot of it's like some client situation sometimes or something. I'm like, oh, that's top of mind. Sounds fun, and then to put that about. But yeah, 'cause crowdsourcing's been always a great way to actually answer at least one person's questions directly, and many people have the same questions too. They're just kind of scared to ask that.
When you said your parents had immigrated over here, what year was that?
Oof, I think they came in early '80s. Yeah.
Early 80s.
Yep, early '80s. So they were immigrants from China. So my dad first came over, and then his story's like wild. The dude was there's missionaries in like the Vietnam-China border at the time, and then they were bringing people over to America, and he was just like, "Oh, this is a ticket over here." So then he came over, but then he got like spooked, and he was like didn't know any English at all, and he had $100 to his name at that point, and just ran off into like a Chinese community, and then he just started, cooking. That was his thing. He was a Chinese restaurant. He cooked in there. Was a dishwasher boy. You worked your ranks up back then. He went to chopping vegetables to frying to finally being a cook, and then he was eventually able to break off. He always told me this story, and it was watch what others are doing and just pay very close attention. And then what his thing was that he always watched. So he walked, or he eventually ended up in Dallas, worked at a five-star like restaurant, every time the head chef was making the sauce, he was just like that. He just worked for him for years until he was just like, okay, I think I got the sauce down, tasted kind of same. And then he's like, all right, I'm bounced because they don't teach you how to make the sauce at the restaurant.
They just keep it a
So
secret. They want to keep that recipe close to their
yeah,
soul.
exactly. Especially the immigrant mentality too. And he's always kept that. That's another thing for him too. Then he kept his own sauce recipe for himself. He taught me, but I obviously don't remember it that well anymore. But yeah, that they immigrated and he had a restaurant for 34 years, but that's really where I would say the training ground started for where I got to today. I got to thank him for everything and my mom for everything that I've learned today.
That mentality, that the immigrant mentality that you've been talking, or that you mentioned, was sort of like there's this it is very much keep the recipe to yourself, right? It is like there's this original, this sort of OG you were mentioned kind of mindset around probably not only business, what you're doing, your craft, but probably also your taxes as
Oh
well,
yeah.
and how you're
Yeah.
managing your finance. Like there's probably a lot there that I imagine you started to uncover,
Oh
probably for your parents at a pretty young age.
yeah, yeah. It was not as pretty once I really learned what I was doing. It was so they were able to do like some basic stuff. They had me on payroll when I worked. I think I got a few $100 for allowance working at the restaurant. And then, but the big thing down the road after I learned tax strategy and really how the game is played is that their accountant really didn't do as much. And nothing against them. It's just like they weren't a tax strategist. They were just good at compliance, putting the numbers on the paper and making sure you stayed out of jail. But I was just like, oh dang, I did the math in hindsight. I'm like, damn, probably could have a trust fund baby. Like if they would have taken that money, invested it instead of paying it to the government, I was like, well, probably wouldn't be in this position today, but they didn't know better, right? It's just like they didn't have formal education, didn't have that luxury. It's just like, hey, just work hard and try to do what you can and make the best of what you could do. But it really was just like eye-opening of like, dang, you did this for 22 years until I really got the accounting degree and kind of started, diving deep on how to save money on taxes. And I was like, dude, if you had a restaurant for 34 years and you had it, if you take 30 years, I always tell clients this is that if you had $10,000 saved every year from taxes and you compound that over 30 years at an 8% interest rate, that's literally $1.3 million. 300 of that being your own like savings, a million of that being growth. And I was like, dang, that could have been me, but it's not. So at least we're here today.
What do people typically get wrong?
Oh, they
Like
get
like
uh,
imagine
yeah.
that's a very open ended question. I realize that, but there's got to be some stuff where you're just like, man, I have to get this message through to people. I
Oh
have
yeah,
to get
yeah.
this message through to every single person. There's got to be like a handful of common things that people just do not get or do not understand.
Oh yeah, that's a great question actually. And I'd say one big bucket is just income shifting. So
Can you
how
get
you
into that a little bit?
Oh yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
definitely.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
definitely. Yeah, this can save people easy money. So income shifting, how you move the same pot of money around in the end destination can save you a ton. So one of the easiest things that you can do is, pay your kid, right? The standard deduction is 15 grand. And, that means that you get $15,000 off. So if you pay your kid 15,000, you get the standard deduction for 15,000. The kid pays zero in taxes. And then you take a $15,000 deduction. And let's just say you're at a 30% rate. You're not even the highest rate, just between a federal and state. I mean, right off the bat alone, that's 4.5 grand saved for you on the tax front. So income shifting, so you can move it to your kids. If you got elderly parents that are in a lower tax bracket than you, shift it over there. So that's kind of like moving it between family members. It's still the same team, right? And then the next big one is just through your own retirement accounts. So I literally was just talking to one of my clients yesterday. He's a fitness coach, and I was just like, hey man, we're gonna juice out your 401k and then stash away. We're concluded about 60 grand into it. And the guy, all he does is work. He doesn't spend a single dime. And I was like, okay, this is not good. We gotta get creative. But literally just moving it from a savings account to the 401k account, that's just gonna be, using a 30% rate again. It's gonna save him 18,000 bucks on 60 grand. So
Can
just
you can
moving your
you
money around.
can you expand on that? Because you said he's working, but he's not spending anything. So we got to get a little creative. The guy doesn't. He's working. He doesn't spend any money, but he
Yeah.
should be spending some money on a few things to find some tax savings there.
Yeah, that's what I told him. He was on the call with his dad too, and we did some planning on there. I was like, hey, there's still $3,600 left. I'm like, you just go take a trip, find a conference where you can learn about, being a better fitness, coach, and then just double dip, right? Do a conference, and then afterwards take dad out, and then hey, just have like a good flights, hotels, write those off, and then at the end time have a dinner too. So some expenses. I like the big part is investing in yourself. I know previously I did not invest in myself. I was so black and white rigid and really started buying into it after seeing some of my ultra successful clients. I just started poking around like, how's this guy got an extra zero in his like on his tax return than I do? And a lot of my clients become friends, so I just started asking. But investing into the proper coaching and mentorships are big. And I told him to do that also. I was like, hey, you gotta put some money in. Your media, put some money in. Anything that builds goodwill, builds ROI in the future, definitely invest in. But yeah, he didn't like to spend any money at all. I was like, all right, that sounds like just like my dad.
Yeah, it makes sense. You had a comment here, and it was I thought it was pretty funny. It was an analogy, and you were like, taxes are like Cinderella. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
And
Hmm.
it says it's Cinderella at midnight. It expires like your taxes due December 31st. Can you expand on that analogy a little bit? Because I really love what you said there.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah. So most people are always used to tax season. And tax season is just putting on paper what happened in the prior year, right? So our taxes are due April 15th, and that's for the period of January 1st to December 31st. And really, there's nothing you can do after December 31st. So all the magic of tax planning season, though, is actually in the current year. So all the magic needs to happen now. And if you literally do nothing, there's like two things really you can do past 12:31 at midnight. Poof, pumpkin's done. You're just dead weight. There's not much you can do. But even if you got married, say on December 31st, you're in Vegas, you want to get hitched, and you got married on that day, right before midnight strikes, your filing status for next year would be married filing joint, even though you're married for like 2 hours. So, like, literally up until midnight of December 31st, you could do all the tax planning you can, and it'll still reduce your taxes for the year. But once it's past, that's January 1st, saying the new year's here, it's very minimal things you can do. You're just trying to I would say, put band-aids on a really leaky ship.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. Because in this, you can ask somebody to sort of fudge a couple of invoices and and backdate them, which you get caught, you're probably in a bit of trouble. But there's
Yeah.
only a few little things that you can do once the prince is looking for that slipper. The ball's over. It's kind of done.
Yeah, yeah. So it's just like, hey, take the time now, have well, I guess, oh my goodness. Oh, it's 8/1 tomorrow, but yeah, it's, so we got 5 months left in the year, which is still enough time. Just I to say, hey, it's just earlier to plan, what Ben Franklin always said. If you fail to plan, you plan to fail. I think that's
That's
his
it.
quote.
That's the one.
Yeah, yeah. So literally it just goes, not only in taxes, right? In your financials, in your budgeting, and even in your life, your fitness. Like literally if you don't plan, it's not going to turn out as well. So, same thing applies in taxes. Taxes is very similar to fitness. I make some fitness analogies too. And it's just like something you just got to continually do. Same thing with your bookkeeping. You continually have to do it every month. Like as much as you hate doing cardio, you still got to go on walks every day, even if you hate it.
What's wrong with just taking a bunch of receipts and then come April 10th, just ship your shoebox of receipts to your accountant and just say, here's everything for the rest of the year.
Oh
Here's
yeah.
everything for the remainder of the year. That
Yeah.
seems that seems to be a lot, a way that a lot of people do that, right? It's not a lot of planning throughout the year, and I think a lot of people just don't really understand because they
Mhm.
don't have a full grasp on what they should be doing or how things should be organized. So they don't really have a proper system for managing receipts, or they don't really have a strategy involved for this playbook of tax strategy and tax savings. So it's kind of left up to the end of the year, and how's everything. We used to work with a cabinet installer, and he was like, he was just like receipts went in a shoebox, that was it, and it was just handed over to his accountant and had to sort through all these paper receipts. What is this? What is this? What is this? What is this? Zero organization. And he
Mm.
showed me it once because I was over at his shop, and I was like, man, what are all those papers that you got in there? He's like, oh, these are all my taxes. These are all my receipts. This is what I do. It's like,
Oh boy. Yeah,
I
that's
okay. We need
yeah.
to we need to have a little conversation here, my friend.
Yeah, yeah. I'm glad you're able to just like, hey, not call them out, but like do them a solid. Like you're just giving like, hey, you're kind of shooting yourself in the foot by not looking at financials.
Why do people not understand
Oh,
taxes as much as they should? Is it because it's complex, or do you think that it's just simply because people aren't putting enough time and thought into it? Because there are a lot of loopholes that people are always looking for, but they probably don't understand that gray area there. Is it just a matter of not being educated enough in that space to really understand what's possible?
yeah, that leads straight on. Yeah, I would say there's kind of two moving parts I would attribute to. One's my first conspiracy theory is that they don't teach you taxes or finances in school. And, financial literacy is just not good. And the reason why I say it's conspiracy theory is then you go work, for a normal employer. Normal employer collects payroll taxes. Also, they pay payroll taxes, and the government gets their money no matter what. Unlike entrepreneurs, if you reinvest the whole profits back, you don't pay taxes, right? So one, it's the school system doesn't teach financial literacy or tax literacy whatsoever. And then the second part is another conspiracy theory is you probably kick me off this podcast soon here, but with all my conspiracy
we
theories.
love conspiracy theories.
Yeah, the other one is just that the tax code is just written by very smart folks, and there's a lot of jargon that's just used to prevent less educated folks in terms of interpreting it and digesting it so they can use it towards their advantage. So it's just to kind of gatekeep out, like, kind of even in the stock terms, right? Like, why is a point called point? Like, dude, it's just 1%, right? Like, why is it a brokerage, right? So some of these terms are just so confusing that they make it like that, so not everyone has access to accomplish it. But those are the two conspiracy theories I have of like why it's actually so complex and why people just aren't tackling these things by the horns. They're not taught better.
Yeah, they're keeping the sauce recipe.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. So it's just like, hey, this is the government sauce of collecting, easy anywhere from 12 to 30% from 50% to you each year. They always say Kevin O'Leary, once he got in the tax space, it was pretty funny. I really enjoyed watching his marketing to see how does a private equity like shark do marketing. And, once he was in our space, it was he had this phrase that a lot of other people in my industry started using, and sometimes I was like, oh, I catch myself using it. But he said, "Taxes are your biggest expense in life," and I was like, hmm, I guess he's got a point. It's going to take anywhere from 0 to 50%, depending on your bracket, of course. But every single year you pay the reaper, right? It's you don't get away from it.
In Canada here, we have provinces down in the states. Obviously, you have many more states than we do provinces, and the tax incentives are different a lot from state to state. Like, I mean, you've seen a lot of people that are moving out of places like New York or California, and they're going to places like Puerto Rico, or we were dealing with one of our clients that she had she it was importing jewelry from China, selling it to Japan through a holding company that she had in Ireland.
Wow.
Right, and that was because the mothership in Ireland, you're paying far less taxes on any of the inventory that's going through, so you're paying far less tax on the revenue that you're producing. And maybe there's somebody that's going to catch on to that at some point, but how much of a difference does that play a part in where people are choosing to live and where people are choosing to do business, especially in
Oh
the
yeah.
States? Because you see these big companies, Amazon, even Uber. Like, a lot of these companies are choosing to do business in certain states over others because of the tax repercussions. How much of an impact is that starting to have on people, especially down in the States? We hear about it actually more about your country than we do here in Canada.
Oh yeah, it's it if there's been a good decent exodus. So I'm near San Francisco, and a lot of the tech companies are out. I mean, just alone, if you just get out of the state, you're gonna be 10% richer. So even at the individual level. So during COVID, a lot of folks actually moved out of the state because like, hey, we can work hybrid now or work remote. And if even if I just take 100% or $100,000 salary and say at 9.3%, literally if you just move next door to Las Vegas in Nevada, there's 0% income tax. So you just move next door, you're going to go save an extra 9 grand in cost of living. and it's cheaper to live there. It's very hot, don't get me wrong, but it's hey, if you're willing to make those sacrifices, but we're talking about bigger houses, and in part of your tax bill, or not sorry, property taxes or your insurance and mortgage can just be paid by your tax savings. So it's something to consider. I always thought about that myself. I'm like, should I should I move? But then it's tough. The weather, the people, the
Yeah,
food.
that's what always comes back to. Like we live in Vancouver. It's one of the most expensive places in the world,
Oh,
but had a
yeah.
rental property down in Saskatoon, which is a couple provinces over there. And house there you bought for. I mean, so to give you some uh, an understanding of what it is that we're dealing with down here. So Saskatoon was a 4-story house, bought that for I think it was $465,000. Older home, it's like 80 years old. Had a suite in it, rented out. That was great. That same house here in Vancouver would be 4.5, 5 million. Right.
Oh,
So
wow.
huge difference. But you're dealing with winter for 7 months of the year, and it's not super appealing to live there. And there's not a lot you can do with 7 feet of snow for 7 months of the year. So it can get a little tiring. But the cost of living is certainly a lot lower.
Oh, yeah, yeah. I used to live in Minnesota, so most of it I grew up like I think 2 to 25. I grew up in Minnesota, and
You
it
went to
was
University of Minnesota, didn't you?
yeah, exactly. Yeah, I
Yeah.
went to Carlson School of Management there, and yeah, I was actually a failed pre-med route. Every Asian mom and dad wants their kid to be a doctor, and it was funny. I think they brainwashed me since I was like probably like 7. So when you're 7 in like first grade or something, you write yourself a letter. The school keeps it. No, I grew up in a small town, 10,000 people, so there's only like 100 kids in our grade.
Yeah.
They return that letter to you when you're a senior, and then it just says what your career path was going to be. And then the point it said I wanted to be a doctor.
Yeah.
And then that's when I went to school and did the whole biology thing, and I got straight B's. And my dad was like, "Dude, you're doing nothing with this." So we cut the cord with that. He's like, "You're not going to get into med school that way." But yeah, Minnesota, great state. It's just cold. It's just oh, I couldn't go back. I think that's a tough part. Is just like once you're spoiled by beautiful weather, it just makes you overall happier.
Why didn't you go the medical route?
Oh, it was just the straight B's route. I was like, oh
Mm.
wow, like and I was just you had to face reality. I'm glad he said it to me though, like when I was 19 after my first year, and then he's just like, you're really not gonna make it, man. And I was just like, and not like being like I listen to everything they say. Like it's very common in
It's
Asian
yeah,
culture.
it's a very much like I find that in a lot in the Asian culture too, right?
Mhm.
Maybe less in that where we grew up and with my parents. There's probably not as much of that, but man, I talk to a lot of people, a lot of my Asian friends too, and their families like, no, you're young, like you do what your parents say you're going to do. If there's a path that you're supposed to be on, and they tell you you're supposed to be on it, you better be on it, or they're gonna cut you out of the family. You're gonna never gonna come to a family dinner. They're gonna be forever disappointed in you. But it was that sort of a similar situation?
Oh yeah, it was just like I was always just like just had too much respect for it because I know everything they did was just for me and my 3 sisters, and I was
That's
like,
it.
hey,
Yeah.
at least I can do is just not be a pain in your butt and always be like refuting everything you say. So everything was always a yes sir, yes sir, like that was it. So yeah, but yeah, it was went back and then so after that first year I actually dropped out and then he bought a restaurant for us to work together. So I just ran that whole thing for him for a year and a half. And then my mom said, like, you got really get education. We didn't come to this country not to get education. So then that's when I went back and I was like, all right, what's the most practical degree you can get here? And it was accounting. So it's like, even if I don't go the whole corporate route, I can just bring it back to the family business and do accounting. So that's where the whole thing started. But then he also gave me some crap about, dude, you're gonna do nothing with this degree. And then that was a turning point. I'm like, all right, I'm gonna show you what's up, dude. And then that's
Yeah,
when
yeah,
you
there's a little of
drink
that.
that Big Four Kool-Aid. And I was like, all right, let me get in a Big Four. And then you get in, and it's like, why does everyone love these companies? I'm like, it made no sense. Yeah.
What didn't you love about them?
It was just the at the end of the day, it's funny, like how MLMs have that bad like marketing or pyramid scheme is actually a pyramid. It's you got a partner, you got a
Yeah.
couple senior managers, you got managers and associates, and I think it was just the I would work faster than people that have been there a couple of years more than me. And the reward was getting more work and no more pay. And I was like, wait a second. I had a really good friend at KPMG, and he was just like, dude, have you done our hourly wage? I'm like, oh, I don't want to know, man. I was like, all right, just tell me. He's like, dude, we make less than 7.25 an hour with like working 80 hours a week. And
Oof.
I was just like, what are we doing here? Like it was good camaraderie. Like I love that. And I always love the people. But for being an entrepreneur, like, growing up at my dad's restaurants, like he's always like, oh, you gotta stand up your own door. You gotta work for yourself. And I was like, the math doesn't math. And I was like, yeah, but those great people, there's a lot of people, it's a really small world. Like that's who everyone's in the same space. Like and then when I went over to Uber, everyone was from Big Four in that company. Like you didn't get hired into the accounting and tax department unless you had that badge of honor, which is just like, AKA you can work 80 hours a week and not complain. Yeah.
Yeah, so to be able to go in and say that you've had the opportunity to work at these companies, cut your teeth. All right, if you've been there and you for an X amount of time, then obviously there's some work ethic that's been built into you. So you do have a bit of a badge of honor there, and there's some respect there.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, like the whole path itself, no regrets at all. I was like, hey, cool. Some of the best people in hindsight. I actually wished I did what my dad told me more to do. It was just like, hey, keep on looking for the sauce. How do they do operations? How do they do engagements? How do they price? How do they hire? Like it'd be cool to see how does a world class, or yeah, literally world class because global company do it versus, we're a small firm still. We're at 29 people, so like versus like when I was a one man show. But it'd be cool to see how these folks do it. But we're not in that world anymore.
Hey man, 30 people on your payroll, man. That's no small feat. How
Oh, that is, yeah,
how was that
daunting.
that journey go? Because I was start out just with you, and then now you're working your way up to what's a pretty substantial and impressive firm, man.
Yeah, appreciate it. Yeah, it was crazy. It was actually a buddy of mine who just gave me crap about having a CPA license and not doing anything with it. And then I was like, oh man, he just had it for a couple of years. And, kind of like how you told your buddy, like, hey man, no more shoebox receipts. Like, you gotta get your crap in order here. And then I was like, yeah, he said a couple of times, all right, let me stand up a firm then. And then I just did it as a side hustle. I was like, I have no idea if this thing's gonna work at all. And, we got our first client and I was like, oh wow, okay. And then just did good work and then and get referral, and that snowball built pretty good. Apparently our industry is horrendous. Like accountants are terrible at responding, don't really look out for you, and they're just too busy doing the work. Now that I know how the industry works, I do get it. But yeah, it was fun to, get the first couple hires. Definitely made a lot of mistakes in hiring. Didn't know how
Yeah.
to
Oh yeah.
hire, didn't know how to train. And then we were able to get to about 7 people before my Uber assigned buddy. So at Uber, when you start on, they assign you a buddy. And him and I stayed in touch afterwards. He hit me up every quarter, really good friend. And then he's just like, "How you doing? Like, what's up?" And then I was like, "Hey, got the firm going." And then he was like, "Oh, really?" And then we ended up, joining forces. And then so he became my COO. And then he was able to take us from 7 to 19 the following year. So he stood up our offshore practice, and then the guy actually flew all the way to India to meet the whole team. So he stood up a big offshore function for us, and it's been night and day compared to when I was trying to hire and train and manage. But really, the offshore talent is crazy good. I'm like shocked. It's the capabilities, the skill sets. I'm like, whoa, compared to their American counterparts. I was like, what is this real? Because we had interns in America, coming out of beautiful colleges that had, offers to the Big Four, and these guys that are just, same out of the gate was just differences in experience because these kids in India actually work during school, so they start when they're 18.
Mhm.
So then by the time they're out, they got 4 years of work experience, and I'm like, wow. I'm like, goodness. I was like, wow. So we've got really fortunate in terms of finding folks there. And then the world's so small now, like even like we're being connected. You're in
Yeah, I see
Canada,
them.
I'm
We're
in
able
the US.
to connect from anywhere on the planet right now, so it makes things
Yeah,
a lot
yeah,
easier.
exactly. And then we found folks in Kosovo and then Chile, Mexico. So getting folks all over the world, Philippines. And I was like, wow. I'm like, what country's next? But there's just so many hungry killers out there still. We're still like a very early startup firm. We're still growing. I want to explode as fast as we can. I keep on telling our team, like, hey, we're going to become the Nike of tax firms, and that's where we're going to head towards. And there's really nothing stopping us until we break. So I keep on telling that every week. I just hey man, Nike of tax firms, it's going to happen. But it's cool to find some really hungry people out and that believe in the same causes too.
Working in different time zones. I'd like to ask about like the different partners and staff that you have working in different time zones. How has that been as far as running a firm for somebody that's considering doing something similar?
Oh yeah.
Gathering staff, gathering talent. Like the Philippines are typically on a very different time zone. Whether South America is going to be a few hours ahead of us or a few hours time difference. So how do you keep everybody connected? What are the internal workings of keeping people connected in a culture within a company
Oh yeah.
really strong when you guys are so separated?
Oh yeah, for sure. So yeah, that's a great thing. First thing you need is worldtimebuddy.com. That one's like the best tool. You add in all the time zones and then it brings your time zone. You know the slots of what time is what.
Yeah.
So one understanding like who is at what time zone is helps a ton. But we use Slack on everything. So we just Slack everyone and we built a very like asynchronous culture. So like my general philosophy, and I learned this from corporate, was like we're not doctors. No one's going to die if we don't do the taxes tomorrow. So it's like the work will always be there tomorrow. Obviously, there's deadlines that need to get done, but it's always going to be here tomorrow. And then just standing up a lot of solutions of like, hey, get this done on a timely basis. Here's Slack as a tool to use. We use a lot of Loom. So we Loom a lot of our thoughts and we don't have to have that many meetings. And then we also have a block from 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. our time, PST. And then that's a good overlap, is a few hour overlap for everyone in the world per their work hours
Mhm.
that they can still accommodate. So we have that little block of like, hey, if you can just be available for just this time block here. It's a little early on the PST time, but it's not horrendous, right? We're not asking for like 3 a.m. or anything. So that way we can all stay in tune. But Looms, we were using ClickUp for a bit, but we went in-house on a tax portal management system. And then just really over communication is all. So a lot of chats. So our Slacks are always pinging, but that's the way that we can stay connected. And we used to do every week or every 2 weeks. I don't know. My party committee always does it. We always just do like a company event and then just like it was all in Slack, play some games together, play some trivia and win some prizes. So we're doing that, but we're going to reamp that a little bit. And then ever since I brought on Eldar, my COO, he's actually very big on the in-person stuff. So we've done, it was really funny. Before he came, never met anyone on my team IRL for 3 years. And then he comes like first 6 months, he's like, all right, let's do a meetup. I'm like, all right. And then, so he's very big about like doing touch bases at least once a year. So we do 2 in the US. We're going to go India again this year. He went last year and then visit our Kosovo team. And then everyone on like the North America side, we just fly them up.
I'm going to ask you a few questions here. Can I, in regards to what you can write off and what you can't, and this is probably going to change state to state, but
Yeah.
if I have a swimming pool
Mm-hmm.
and my doctor says I need to do cold water therapy, and that's going to be what is going to help my issues that I have with my body, can I write off my swimming pool?
Yeah, you can wrap your swimming pool as long as you have the doctor's note on that side, and it'll just be a medical deduction, 7.5% of your adjusted gross income. So if you're making 100 grand, anything past 7,500 bucks for the pool, if the pool is 30 grand, you'll get a 22.5K deduction. So it's just one of those medical related reasons to write it off. So it goes as an itemized deduction. But yeah, as long as there's a real use case for it and it's tied in tax law, you can take those deductions all day.
What about my Netflix subscription? If
The
I'm using
Netflix.
it for research for my next startup.
Oh yeah, so it's always so the joke answer in the world is like it depends. So, it's what every CPA attorney always says is like, hey, it depends. And, for the Netflix, so your specific one, just to use those words, like research for your next project. So there's a startup cost of up to $5,000 that you can do for research and development for your next project or next business that you can actually write off. So that's like if you're using for that. Now, if you're just like, now, if we just change the just a tweak of the small words. And it's like, hey, can I, write off Netflix for my home? And be like, all right, next question was like, well, is there any like activity happen to it? How's it related to the business or anything? And then it's like, no, I just want to just, chill. I'm like, okay, then it's a no. But the key words he said there for research, actually, yes.
Golf membership.
Oh, this one got struck away. So in 2018, they changed the rules. Entertainment got completely wiped. It used to be 50%, and then now they refreshed the tax laws again now in 2025, and they got rid of entertainment. So it's really kind of a bummer. I'm like, oh dang, because it's like pickleballs. Like I've been trying to get into that sport more, and I was just like, oh, I guess I'm paying out of pocket for these, which is fine. But yeah, entertainment used to be huge.
Yeah, it's same thing here in Canada, where the golf memberships there they started turning their being it was a big no. It was
Oh
it was
yeah.
okay for a little while, but they sort of looked down on a few of these things. Another one here, which is been sort of a number of years ago, racehorses.
Oh, racehorses in Canada or over
In
here?
Canada, I'm asking you down in the States. So if you were to buy a horse and you were
Yeah.
to say, hey, this is going to be a racehorse, and my part of my business is going to be is going to be making money in racing horses. Can you write off your racehorse?
Oh yeah. So yeah, here you can, as long as, so the cool thing, and this is where it gets really great. I like how you said the magic's in the gray. So it's actually pretty creative how you can see. So as long as you can meet the ordinary and then necessary use of the purchase, you'll be able to write it off. So if you're gonna literally buy a horse, buy a stable, or rent a stable, and literally just train and have your jockeys and pay your jockeys to go win on that, even from a sponsorship perspective, you will be able to write that off.
What about travel? And I'm talking about like, as you can go and you can travel, right? You're taking your family down to Hawaii and you bring your laptop and you have one or two Zoom calls down when you happen to be on the beach in Hawaii for the most part, but you're bringing your laptop there. Can you write off your whole trip?
We like to just prorate it. So like say if you have say it's like a 10-day trip and then like, 4 days you actually like worked for real, then I just say, hey, 40% prorate that trip for yourself there. Then that's where it kind of gets into the gray area. Some other accountants, they take more aggressive positions and they'll say, hey, write off the whole thing. Some other accountants be like, no, man, you barely worked. And then they'll just be like, hey, you're getting zero of it.
How do you
We
know?
just
How do you know? That's what I want to know. How do you know?
Oh yeah, yeah. So us as accountants, we don't actually know. The only way that we know, and also what the burden of proof is always on the taxpayer. So they actually have to have the itinerary. So what happens? So we actually have an inside man from the IRS that works for us,
Yeah.
and he taught us how they audit. And travel audits, what they do is they actually look at your itinerary. So if you're getting audited, they're going to be like, hey, let me see your itinerary for these, $7,623 of expenses that you're claiming. And then if you furnish them the itinerary of, who you met, what you did, what was the whole schedule for the day, they'll just let you cross, right? But if you don't have an itinerary, you sure can believe that they're just going to knock that out. They're always looking for easy wins. So meals and travel, that's going to like knock it out. So you're eating meals, they're 50% off. But if you don't write down the business purpose, who you're with, they're going to strike that out. And then the other one, they like to poke holes at really easy. They're almost like balloons that they're just trying to poke holes at really fast. Is cars. If you don't have a
Cars.
mileage log,
Yeah.
they're going to just poke you, and then easy note, like that change audit's going to be quick 15, 20 grand, pay them back and move on. But kind of how I understand I'm not sure how tiny the CRA is compared to the IRS, but there's some agents, there's assigned case quota. You just close it, go home, not care. Then you got the other agents where like they really feel like they got power. And then
Yeah.
they're there just to make your life
I've dealt with
miserable.
both. Just so you know,
Oh, you've had both.
I
Yeah.
have certainly dealt with both. And I don't know anybody by name, but it just comes in as like a label from the CRA. But they do down here mileage is a big thing, I find. And some like 9 out of 10 times you're going to write off whatever you need to do for for fuel and for mileage, and you're using your vehicle for business use, etc. But there are going to be some, and like 9 times out of 10 they're going to be cool and say, yeah, that's sort of within reason, that makes sense, we're not going to go through doing the extra work, we have 100,000 plus other people that we got to deal with as as an individual case. But the you're going to get that one that's going to say, I need all the receipts, I need all the mileage logs, and then you come back and you're like, oh man, all right, now I have to go back and I have to figure all this stuff out, and it's yeah, it can be pretty painful. But that's one thing that they do. I find get held up on.
Oh yeah. So yeah, I always tell our clients, I'm like, hey, Mileage IQ, QuickBooks app, every time you take a business trip, just turn it on. If not, just come clean, be like, hey, I got no documentation. Here's your tax money. Give me the penalty and interest, and move on with your life. Depends on how much, of course, that amount is, but that's just a good reminder of like, hey, the burden of proof is on the taxpayer. So, it's just like, I'm gonna believe everything you give me on the income statement as long as it's within reason, right? If I see you made $100,000, but you spent $99,000 on advertising, I'm like, is that really true? How did you live? There's still professional due diligence.
Let me ask you more on the itinerary, right?
Yeah.
So let's play the scenario out. You're going on a trip, right? You're heading down to Mexico. You go into ChatGPT and you say, hey, I'm heading to Mexico for these 7 days, and build me an itinerary of things that I can do. I have meetings on these days. I'm considering doing a meet up and a dinner with this person. Build me a full itinerary that I can follow, and if the IRS or CRA comes to audit me, then I can provide them this itinerary in a format that they're going to understand. And then you print that off, and then you go on your holidays, and then you come back and you expense it, and you say, hey, this is my itinerary that I built from ChatGPT before I went on my holidays. Is that legitimate enough is that a good use case as far as an itinerary? Or are they looking for, man, you need to have actual receipts, actual dates, plane tickets, all that sort of stuff? Or is that really going to come down to the person?
Oh yeah, so it's going to be a trust but verify scenario here. So you get the first part is this, they'll trust you based off your itinerary, but then they just want to verify it. So say if your itinerary said like, hey, you're gonna, go attend, XYZ conference, and then they're gonna be like, hey, let me see the ticket that you have for it, right? So they want to verify. We've seen it where on the real estate side, they're like, hey, they're trying to vouch your hours. I'm like, cool. Hey, man, let me pull up this log. You said you spent 2 hours talking to the phone with this person. All right, let me see the proof, right? Let me see the email. So they'll do the verification part. So you're at least 50% there. If you don't even have an itinerary, you're kind of cooked. So if you have the receipts, the backed itinerary, then you're fully protected. Like, and then the other thing I always tell clients is like, audits are just routine. It doesn't really
Mhm.
matter. Like if you're actually doing it right, like I'm like, hey, I'll open my whole front door for you to come in. I don't really care. Like, there
Yeah.
you go. Yeah,
Yeah.
like I don't mind at all.
So in that type of thing, as far as documenting, what would be the easiest way, or maybe apps that people are using for receipts? Like somebody that is they're not using a QuickBooks desktop scenario, or they're just looking to store receipts, store mileage, store information, whether it's going to be their homes. Like it just seems like a lot of paperwork, and I think like that's where people get held up. Is there's so much stuff. We have documents that come through by email. We get paper receipts and copies and invoices, and we don't really know what to do. How big is my house? How I can write off whatever 10% of that square footage, but here's my property taxes, and it's just a lot. And I think that's where people get overwhelmed, just because they're like, man, I don't have time to deal with that.
Oh yeah. Oh, totally agree. And this is where people get caught up a lot, and the whole year passes by, and next April, you're just kind of just pulling, this stressed for it. But I would say the easiest one, if you're a business owner, definitely invest in the QuickBooks. It's not that expensive in terms of how much it does for you. The value gap that it provides, so much easier. But just say you're just a normal tax-paying citizen, right? And you don't have a business, and you're just, hey, I'm working W-2, but I still have a house. I got a rental too. I always just say, hey, take a picture of the receipt. So just bust out the phone, take a picture of it right away. I always carry a pen. So if you're eating, like say who you're with, why did you eat with them? And then just take it, toss it into a Google Drive. And then from there, if you ever do get audited, then go through it all. I wouldn't say you need to sort it all. If you have time, be my guest, but time is none of our best friends. At Uber, they actually had the receipt attached to every single expense there. So you literally could go search it up in Oracle and go pull in the invoice or the expense receipt. So there's literally departments, or there's technology now that does that for you. But just for the normal consumer, I say, hey, Google Drive folders 2025, and then just toss them all there. If you want to get a little bit granular, break it out per house, maybe break it out for your itemized deductions, do that. But that's the easiest way to do it. But still, some people are like, that's a lot of work, man. I'm like, well, do you want the deduction or not?
Man, I can tell you how much money I've left on the table over the years by just, being too lazy to have all the right paperwork in place, and
Oh, yeah.
not take advantage of what I know that I could have, and I know that there was a lot of money left on the table there. So trying to get better, and for the same reason that I think like a lot of people end up doing that is they just don't know, right?
Yeah,
Or it's
exactly.
just like, man, I don't have 12 different folders to keep all this stuff and print stuff off and know when to do that. And, oh, I'll remember to do this at come tax time, but then you never remember. And then this comes up, and then you're kind of playing with spreadsheets as you go. And so I've certainly had my share of those years.
hmm No, that's good. And then, I mean, for you guys, it matters even more from a sales tax perspective, right? So,
Mhm.
because you get that extra back. So, when you have to file your sales tax return. So, yeah, it is annoying, but you kind of build it a habit after a while. I do carry a little bag sometimes. I don't have it up here upstairs with me here, but I'll just have that little satchel and I'll just stuff the receipt in there sometimes too. And then, hey, because sometimes you're just moving really fast, but I always just save the receipt. I'm always that annoying guy at the table. Like, hey, can I get a receipt? But and it's just like, hey, I'd rather have something versus nothing.
Yeah. Yeah. You had a point here. Um, you said option trading is trash. Do you remember
Yeah.
that?
Yeah, uh-huh.
Do you remember that? And you said it's option trading is trash. I've written it down here because I want to answer. But given your expertise in your tax strategy, what do you mean by that?
Oh yeah.
And why is option trading trash?
Yeah. So just for the normal consumer, I think so in 6 years of doing this, there's been one guy that I've came across that won, and
Yeah.
everyone else has just
It
lost.
was funny. And this question was relevant because I saw that just yesterday. I was talking to a friend. He's like, yeah, I made, it was like $2,800 on the market today. I was like, oh yeah, okay, and he's like, well, but by the end of the day, when it closed out, I lost like 900. But I think like the option that I going in and trading on is actually it's going to do quite well. And I'm like, man, this seems like a lot of work and pretty risky. And are you sure you know what you're doing? I'm like, there's got to be an easier way to make money. And you had made that comment, and so I just wanted to ask you about it because it was very relevant and came up yesterday in
Oh
conversation.
yeah. Oh yeah, diving deeper into it. It's so yeah, one is just from our clients. So that's anecdotal. But the from a tax technical standpoint is that say if you are trading Apple, right? And we've had to deliver the bad news. I always tell people, hey, don't shoot the messenger. I'm here just to tell you the bad and good news. And if you say you bought Apple today and you lost money and you buy it back tomorrow, there's a thing called wash sale rules. That loss you can't actually count and it gets added back for tax purposes. So you then pay taxes on that. So it's like that's why I really say it's trash if you don't know what you're doing. My own dad got burned by it, and I'm like, geez, dude, like, all
Yeah.
right, remember this moving forward. But because they just don't know better, and their options are just a lot of them going all the time, right? So that's like why I'm like, hey, like don't do it if you don't know what you're doing. And then also I'd be curious if you ask someone, hey, what's your life to date winnings versus losses? And that's the hard part about options. And I'm just a very slow and steady type of guy. Like just listen to Warren Buffett, dollar cost average, S&P 500. You're gonna beat 90% of the wealth advisors out there, and that's
Most
literally what I
most
do.
accountants that I know are pretty risk averse, and I think they need to be for the
Oh
most
yeah.
part. Yeah, I
Uh-huh.
know. I know. It's funny. I talked to our financial controller. We have an in-house accounting here, and my perspective on things and her perspective on things are often very different. I'm like, it's just because like I'm over here and you're over here, and that's great because I need you over here to make sure that I don't go too far over here in this direction. So,
Yeah.
thank you for being the human being that you are.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, it's like yeah, good. It's good balance, right? Yin and yang at the end of the day.
Yeah, yeah, 100%. Man,
Yeah.
where can people find you? CPA Dude underscore on Instagram, YouTube.
Yeah, YouTube. Yeah, we got shorts going on there, the CPA Dude. And then the website's the cpadude.com. The texting line's 254 CPA Dude. So everything's the CPA Dude on that side.
Hell yeah. What would you say? would be the one or maybe two pieces of advice for somebody that's like, okay, I know I need to get better at this strategy. I know I need to know more, but you know what? I'm not going to do anything about it right now. I just, cause it seems too complicated. I need to know like a little bit more. I need to, and they know that like I know that I'm in that position because I know enough, but I also know that there's not quite enough drive to like really make that jump and make it more efficient. And it's simply because I'm not as educated in the area of financial planning and tax advising that you are. So what would you tell somebody if you're like, man, you just need to get over that fence. You don't have to be so scared of it. Just jump into it, spend that time, get to know it. What sort of advice would you give somebody in that position?
Yeah. There probably two nuggets I would say is like, hey, if you have, no, you don't have a budget for it, just use ChatGPT. The only thing I don't want to say, it does hallucinate, and it's only as good as you prompt it. But a simple prompt you can just say is just like, hey, you're a CP tax expert, and then give them your scenario. So say I'm a business owner, I own real estate, I work W-2, break out every income source, and then be like, hey, what are the best tax strategies I can use to get optimized? So that's like the 101 free everything. And then it'll probably get you 80% there, right? It's just the fine-tuned details that it won't like connect the dots to do, but it'll get you a great start. And then just talk to your other business owner, real estate friends, because they probably have invested into their strategist. Like, hey, ChatGPT ran this through me. Like, what are your thoughts? Have you and your accountant talked about this? That'd be like 101, right? If you have a little bit more of a budget, and then hey, just go do discovery call. Hey, initial consultation with the tax pro, and be like, hey, I've started this. What do you think? Is there more improvement? Can you help me out? And then ultimately, they should be able to help you out if you have the right facts, right? We always tell our clients like, some clients see instant ROI right away on our fees to that, or in 3 years. Just listen to what I tell you to do, and then you get like your ROI back in 3 years, right? So it's like a 33% ROI, if not 100%. So those are like the first two parts to start at, and then so I always say some plan is better than no plan, right? It's like, dude,
It's a good
taking
point.
some steps is better than no steps. Like your tax plan could literally be put $7,000 into a retirement account. Just start there, right? It doesn't have to be super complicated. If you want, there's like more money, more problems. That joke is actually true in taxes. But, if you're just starting out, just do really basic things.
Yeah. Heck yeah, man. CPA dude, Tony Hoong. Thank you so much for being here with us today, my man. It was so much fun. You
Yeah.
make, I love your content. Everybody go check them out because you are making this information that we're talking about today and taxes just well known to everybody, real tactics that they can use in a very entertaining and relatable way. So man, appreciate all the work that you do, and yeah, appreciate your time today.
All right. Thanks, Brandon, for having us here.
All right. And for everybody else that's still out there, thank you so much for being here. And until next time, rock and roll.